And again, remind you that if your budget is small and you can only afford a tiny bit, what's the thing that you need the most help with? Maybe you can find someone willing to do that thing with whatever amount of time you can afford to hire them. Welcome to Gentle Frog's Bookkeeping Lily Pad, your cozy corner of the podcasting world, where numbers tell a story and bookkeeping blossoms into an adventure. My name is Rachel Barnett, and I'm glad you're here. This podcast is for bookkeepers who enjoy authentic, unfiltered, and always encouraging friend to talk shop with. We will be discussing what it's like to own and operate a small bookkeeping business. Can we talk for a few minutes about what an admin might be able to do for you? Sometimes I see conversations in Facebook groups where someone says they're looking to hire an admin and this person should be able to cook and clean and do graphic design and video editing and answer the phones, and the list goes on. I think that's unrealistic and unfair. So I made a small list of things that I outsource to different people. I thought that it might be helpful just to hear the different things that people do as you're thinking about the type of admin you might want to hire. Instead of hiring one super admin like Mary Poppins, you might end up with a handful of admins. So here's some different things that I have people do. My social media. Jess creates my social media content. What she's doing is just shy of magic. But really what she's doing is she sees the stuff that I do. She sees the videos that I put out and the courses I've created and just in general the services we offer. She creates social media content using Canva based on the things that we do. I don't have an admin for this. It's just us. But gathering docs is another thing. So imagine that you've onboarded a new client and you have to catch up a year's worth of bookkeeping. An admin could possibly reach out to that client and say, okay, here's your checklist of documents. I need all these documents before the bookkeeping team can start. Along the same lines, the admin, upon receipt of the documents, can rename all the files so the files are functional and useful names. If you're not sure what I mean by this, go to your PayPal account and download a statement. It's going to look like a cat walked across your keyboard, and that will be the name of the file. I'll admit, I have definitely asked Jess to rename files for us. When we get 30, 40, 50 statements all at once, and they're all named something weird and it's not optimized for retrieval, I will ask her if she has time and if she could please rename the things. I was listening to a different podcast. It was called Grow My Accounting Practice with Mike Michalowicz. They had a guest on the podcast, and the guest said, we have an admin that handles client communication. They don't answer all the questions, but they answer some of them. And I'm like, oh, well, that's kind of nice. In our office, Megan and I handle our own communication, but different strokes for different folks, right? One of the things that I had an admin for in the past was that I hired someone to make sure the team was responding to client messages. We had one of those team inboxes where everything went to one inbox like support at or hello at. And then on the back end, we use software to be able to drag messages into each individual bookkeeper's inbox. For a variety of reasons, messages and replies weren't always going out in a timely manner. So I had an admin to kind of keep an eye on it and to gently remind the bookkeepers like, hey, client so-and-so has been waiting more than 3 days for a response. Are you stuck? Do you need some support from the management team? What's going on here? This, to be clear, was not at my business. Sometimes an admin can be a sounding board. This was one of the things that was really great about working with Nina. Nina was my sounding board because I would litter my messages with profanity. I would explain and gripe about everything that was bothering me. I would celebrate everything that was fantastic. She's the kind of person who's very direct in her responses. And so if she thought something, even if she thought that I was doing a really bad job and I had made mistakes and I was being totally ridiculous, she would tell me in no uncertain terms. So I don't know how he feels about being an admin, and we'll find out when this gets edited, but Kirill does my audio editing. So what that means is stuff like my podcast, he's going through and pulling out all my mistakes, my redos, when I get nervous and start choking or who knows what's happening back here. He's also going to rearrange the words. So if I ramble on for a bit and then I'm like, oh, I totally should have said X, 12 minutes back in the recording, I'll say the thing I had in mind and then he'll just put it where it would have gone had I done a better job with my outlines. I have Carlos for my video editing. I have Camtasia. I know how to use Camtasia. I can 100% edit my videos. I'm slow at it. I am not efficient in the least. You know how when we talk to clients and we're like, yeah, you could do your bookkeeping. I can teach you to do your bookkeeping, but you probably would make more money if you focused on the thing that you went into business to do and you didn't focus on being your own bookkeeper. The same thing is true here. It ebbs and flows, but we put out 2 YouTube videos a week. Now, outside of that, we're probably recording, 5-ish videos a week for course content. If I was in charge of editing those videos, blurring stuff where it needs to get blurred, putting little red boxes around things, I would get nothing done. I would not describe myself as the world's slowest video editor, but I'm definitely in competition for the title. In the past, I've hired admins to help me with my systems. I feel like I'm really great at explaining myself. I know that I am fantastic at rambling. What this means is that I benefit greatly from hiring somebody that likes to take rambling information and condense it down into something useful. For my old business, primarily bookkeeping, I hired someone to watch my videos where I'd ramble about what to do for clients and condense it down to kind of a checklist with some helpful screenshots and thoughts. I would ramble about the business in general, and she would condense it down into a wiki page. This is definitely some of the million things that Jess does for me now. If you're a subscriber of my newsletter, you'll notice the newsletter sounds like me, but it just sounds better. That's definitely a product of Jess. In these cases, I'm hiring someone to go do the thing, do the edits, do the rearranging, put stuff together. I'm looking at their draft product or finished product or whatever you want to think about it as, and I'm making changes if necessary. What I'm also doing is just taking myself out of the middle so that I'm not the bottleneck. An admin can help you with onboarding clients. When we get a new bookkeeping client, Jess gets a notification. Jess will then set up the appropriate file folders, and she'll send a message to the client saying, hey, welcome to the team. This is how we work. These are your folders. Please, if you have any questions, let us know. This is the kind of thing that I'm extremely grateful for. It doesn't take very long, but there are so many things that happen in your day where it's no big deal. It's only 10 minutes, but all of the 10 minutes add up. If you feel like those 10 minutes here and there don't add up, I encourage you to go look at your credit card statement and just replace 10 minutes with $10. Every charge you have for $10 feels like no big deal. It's just $10 until you look at the statement and you owe $500 because you had a bunch of $10 things. It's kind of the same idea. The last thing that I wrote down that I hire out is my graphic design. This is different from just making something in Canva. This is going to be the infographics and the custom designs and images on my website. So no joke. Here's what I do. I send Maria a video, often accompanying some sort of horrible doodle that I've made because I'm not an artist or a designer by any stretch. And I'll say, Maria, I'm trying to convey this particular thing. Here are the words that I use to describe it to a client. And here's the things that I might draw on the screen. If we're doing a Zoom call, I'll draw on someone's screen and be like, oh, here's the concept. Or I might pull something up in QuickBooks and be like, here's Craig's design and landscape service. Here's what the report looks like. Here's what I'm trying to convey, explain. She'll then take these ideas and just draw kind of a loose sketch of what I'm trying to explain, but put it into a useful infographic so somebody can understand it without my 5-minute rambling video. We work together to fine-tune it to make sure that what she's drawn is actually conveying the right thing. Because if I did a bad job of explaining and she doesn't have an accounting background, it can go a little sideways. Once we get it narrowed down to something that's functional and makes sense, she'll do it up for reals, putting in what we call Professor Frog. We have this frog with a bow tie. It cracks us up. Internally, I'm a huge fan of Professor Frog. Jess does 40 million bajillion things for me. But if I were to expect her to be my Mary Poppins and to do all of these things, it wouldn't go well. She's never said she can do all these things. She's always said, instead of me taking money from you to do a thing poorly, this particular task, it would be better done by somebody else. I think it's important to give people credit for the things that they do. I think it's important also to explain that it's okay to have a team and it's okay to have people, and it's okay if your people don't work a whole lot. I think my graphic design budget is somewhere in the neighborhood of $100 to $200 per month. I think my audio editing budget is just slightly more than that. And this is only because we've grown into these things. When these people first joined my team, it wasn't even that much. I know that I'm not a significant part of their revenue. I also know that I intentionally call them part of my team. I don't say, oh, I outsource my whatever. Well, I do outsource it. I am clear about that. But I don't make a distinction that says they're not part of my team. Well, not everything I mentioned is actually an admin thing in terms of the roles being either you're in the bookkeeping department or you're in the admin department. For me, I consider them to be in the admin department. So my goal for this is just to talk to you about some of the things you might want to outsource or get a team member to do. And again, remind you that if your budget is small and you can only afford a tiny bit, What's the thing that you need the most help with? Maybe you can find someone willing to do that thing with whatever amount of time you can afford to hire them. If you like anything that you see on my website or in my graphics, you can find the contact information for all the people that work with me on gentlefrog.com/about. If you're looking to add someone to your team and it's not somebody on my about page, you're always welcome to message me and say, hey, I'm looking for someone that can X, Y, or Z. Do you know anybody? The answer is probably yes. I know and talk to a lot of people, probably someone I've worked with in the past or someone that I just chat with on a regular basis. I can't promise you I'll be able to make a perfect connection, but I have absolutely no problem thinking about who I know that I can refer to you. I'm going to put a link to this in my Facebook group, Gentle Frog's Bookkeeping Lily Pad. If you have a person that you love that has capacity and is looking for more clients, I'd love it if you put their contact information underneath the post for this podcast episode. If you're a person who does something other than bookkeeping and you're looking for more clients, I'd love it if you put a quick note under the post for this podcast episode and just let us know what's the thing that you're magical at and your contact info. I don't have to be the only person that makes connections. I'm 100% on board to have a place that people can go to look through the list and say, oh, this person has a great insert thing here, and there's their contact info. I'll just check with them to see if they're still accepting clients. All right, that's it for me. Have a great day, you guys. Thanks. Bye.